Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And I'd like to welcome you to my video guide on the Shiva Cosmos fight. So without further ado, let's start this video. As always, we'll start off with the weaknesses, the resistances, and the abilities of the last boss, and in this case, it's going to be Shiva. Of course, she has weakness to the fire element, and she doesn't have any resistances, but she does have an absorbability on if you're using any ice elements on her. As for her abilities, she has Diamond Dust, which is her recast ability. This basically removes her debuffs, frames excluded, from level 120. It increases her brave and does a group magic brave attack. This also applies the frostbite to the field, which prevents actions until Shiva's next turn. The effect still applies following friend support and revival. This also inflicts a initial brave down and grants a frozen crystals, and basically increasing her initial brave up as well, and then she gets an instant turn rate below level 120, and that's quite a mouthful. Next, she has her normal brave attack, which is an ice brave magic attack, and then she has the boreal plunge, which is her magic HP attack. Next up, she has ice rock, which is a ice magic brave attack, which also inflicts a speed down debuff. This also has a increased turn rate when she's inflicting a break or attacking someone who's broken already. Next is Hailstorm, which again increases her brave. It is an ice magic brave attack and also grants herself a speed up buff. Next is Icicle Thrust, which is a group ice brave attack which inflicts a turn rate down to the party. Next is Icicle End, which is again increases her brave again and basically is a group magic HP attack. This is normally the next move she does after she uses Diamond Dust. Next is she has the Avatar, which basically is triggered when her HP drops to a certain amount, and she basically removes all the debuffs that she has, frames included, and then she will split in two. Next is the flavor text that you will see. Basically, when it says the cold permeates, basically the Shivas will gain a attack up, defense up, and speed up, initial brave up, aura kind of thing. And then when you finally kill one of the Shivas, basically the cold intensifies text flavor will come up, and this again raises further her attack defense speed, now this time with her max brave as well as her initial brave. And finally we have Resist Veil, which is triggered when she inflicts a break or attacking an enemy that's afflicted with break already. This basically nullifies HP damage and is cancelled once you break Shiva, pretty much the same as Ifrit. Alright, so now that we know the weaknesses, the resistances, and the abilities of the last boss, it's time to take a look at some general tips and guides. The first one I have here for you guys is to save about 70 to 80% of your abilities for the last boss. Unfortunately, unlike the Ifrit Cosmos fight, this is a 3-wave fight. It's not just Shiva herself, so saving a little bit of your abilities for Shiva will definitely help. Now in saying that, you can probably save more than 70% of your abilities. I do believe that 80 to 90% is somewhere around about where you're gonna be, but yeah, I'll leave it up to you guys. Next is the cheese characters. Now, just like the Ifrit fight, there is a super synergy going on at the time of this recording. However, they are not permanent. So, What I'd like to bring into these summon board fights is basically characters that you can use to sort of cheese the fight and make things a lot easier for you to clear the fight. In this case, I have Sarah, Kefka, Quistis, and yes, Celeste is still there because practically all of Shiva's attacks are all magic base attacks, so she can still do quite a number on Shiva, even though she is not a super synergy character, or probably not a lot of people actually gonna use her here because there's probably a lot more different characters that you can choose from. However, I still believe that she can cheese this fight almost certainly, and it's quite a nice addition to your team if you do decide to bring Celeste. Now the next tip for you guys is do not bring any ice-based characters such as Snow, Cater, or Papalimo. Unfortunately, even though Papalimo still has a fire-based attacks, you really want to maximize your abilities, so having 6 abilities that are useless pretty much is not great. So you may as well bring someone else. As for the healers plus Brave Battery options, again you have an option between Rem, Selphie, Maria, Eiko, Lena, or Kate Sith. And for the summon, there is only one summon right now that you may want to bring, and that is the Ifrit summon. Okay, so now let's take a look at some general tips for the fight itself. The first one is obviously going to be your support hero or support character, which is going to be Quistis. I still believe Quistis is the best support hero, although you can bring some other support characters like DPS orientated support characters. I still feel like Quistis is probably the better option. The next one is to, now this can be a little bit controversial, but I think it's better to kill the Shiva one at a time. This is when she splits, of course. I do feel it's less terrifying to deal with just one Shiva, even though that Shiva will have a lot of stat boosts, because you can make sure that your Brave is topped up. It's much easier to maneuver around with just one boss rather than 2, and having some sort of a splash damage to make sure that the Shiva that survives doesn't have too much HP will definitely help you here. So we do have a lot of splash damage characters now, so you may want to bring those characters as well. Now that's not to say that you can technically kill them almost at the same time, because that is also a viable option. This is just my own opinion. The next one is to bring a debuffer. Just like in Ifrit, having a debuff here is gonna help, but the debuff you're looking for are poison or sap, and this is just basically the debuff of choice. Now unfortunately, in the Cosmos fight, she will remove these buffs once she used Diamond Dust, but if you have a frame debuff that has these types of effects, and these are, unfortunately at the time of this recording, I only know of 2 frame debuffs that has sort of a poison or sap effect, and one is on Sarah's EX and one is on Kefka's EX. So if you don't have any of these characters EX, it's probably better for you to bring a healer along rather than to prevent too much HP damage. And of course, my final tip for you guys is to keep an eye on her meter. This will indicate when she will use Diamond Dust, so make sure you top yourself up if you don't plan or don't have any, it's like Sarah's EX or Kefka's EX, to make sure that her Brave goes down before she attacks with her Diamond Dust. And you know, she'll do Icicle End as well, so make sure you're topped up for that. Alright, so now let's take a look at some possible party compositions now that we're done with the general tips and guides. The first one I have here is the Quistis Sarah plus a DPS option, and with a Quistis support and Ifrit as your summon. Now basically this is going to use the delay tactic just like with Ifrit. However, you will only probably have enough delay on one of the Shivas, so just prepare for another well, probably a longer fight than Ifrit, because once your Quistis friend runs out of delay, you still have to contend with another Shiva, which will have boosted stats, so just be careful in using this. Again, splash damage is probably preferred. Sarah does a lot of splash damage, so your other DPS can do the same. You can also bring a healer, it doesn't really matter. Sarah is quite good as a DPS in this fight. The next one is the Quistis Kefka DPS option. Basically, Kefka can you can avoid getting HP damage, so especially with his Trine ability, so you can sort of skip some of that HP damage. However, they will, I do believe, will still persist on using an HP damage attack, but at least you can keep them at bay for the most part. And again, Quistis support, this is still doing the delay tactic and Ifrit for your summon. Now the final one I have for you guys here, because there are a lot of different options, I feel like having the third one, which basically what I'm showing to you guys now, the Renoa, Lena, Sarah with a Quistis support and Ifrit as your summon. Okay, so we are finally at the end of this video. Of course, I will give you my final thoughts on this fight. Now, I do believe this is a much more difficult fight than the Ifrit Cosmos fight, only because Shiva splits in two, and basically you can only delay so much delay one Shiva as you run out of Quistis' ability. And although there are some cheese characters that you can use, they're not overly cheesy in a sense, because you're still fighting two of them, and Shiva still has a way to inflict HP damage without basically Celeste absorbing all of her attack, because Icicle N basically just increases her Brave and then just do an HP attack. So, you know, it still does a little bit more significant, not overly significant, I would say, HP damage, but HP damage nonetheless. And of course, you know, with her multiple buffs that she can apply if you don't bring a debuffer, and she will have far more turns and you will have less more turns. Basically, the name of the game is she will try and speed up and lower your speed. Now, the reason why I actually didn't put a fourth team here as well is because I feel like there are an abundant amount of characters that we have right now, and I feel like for the most part they can all do pretty well here. Of course, except those characters that use ice-based elements. So but overall, most of the characters can do pretty well. I did bring in Zack at one point, but I didn't record that, unfortunately. But I feel like he did pretty well here as well, especially if you have his EX, although he will still take a bit of a Brave damage, because Shiva, when she's by herself at the end, she does quite a ton of Brave damage. So even with that shield, you just have to make sure that Zack does have a bit of Brave in him as well. So overall, again, a little bit harder than Ifrit, but it shouldn't be a problem for veteran players. For new players, you might have a little bit of an issue here, especially if you don't have some of the characters that I mentioned that makes this fight a lot easier. You can try and bring a support like, say, Sarah, that has a EX, but she's just really limited if she's just a support. You have a limited amount of time, I suppose, in a way, in terms of Shiva using her Diamond Dust and of course her Icicle End, because once those debuffs run out, then you will probably take a lot more hits. So I would say you have to bring a holy trinity of some sort of team, like having a tank, a healer, and a DPS. Anyway guys, I think I will leave the video right here. Now, just before I go, I want to thank Zach Captain for pointing out that I missed something during my editing, and I noticed that one of them was out of sync. I really apologize for that. I don't see any point in re-uploading it and, you know, fixing one thing and re-uploading it all over again. I want to concentrate more on the future event, and which is in about 36 minutes at the time of this recording. The Veins event is gonna come out, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So remember to click like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful at all. As always, I'd like to hear from you guys what you think of this fight and what team did you use in order to beat this Shiva Cosmos fight. And also to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter at Munchkins Gaming. This is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.